Hello, welcome to the Flickering Torch, and on this episode, gaming clubs. Should you go to one? Oh. Hello. So, very recently I made the transition from playing in an RPG club, specifically Dungeons, Dragons and Other Things down in Burton Latimer, and playing a home game, I should say. Now, Dungeons, Dragons and Other Things, I had a really great time going there, but I moved away due to other commitments, work and university. So, unfortunately, I no longer can be part of that club, but I did go there for many years. In fact, I was even on their council of deciding how the club should be run, etc. And making that change, I saw a huge difference in how I was running and how I was playing RPGs. And I just want to go over now, for new players who are thinking, maybe I should join one of these clubs, or should I join one of these clubs, or should I set up my own home game? The sort of differences I saw, and the kind of the cons and the pros of going to one of these RPG clubs. So in classic YouTube fashion, this is a top 5 cons and a top 5 pros of going to one of these RPG clubs. My number 5 is it's going to cost you some money. Now, our RPG club that I went to and helped run was only £2.50 a player and it was free for GMs. So for me, totally worth the price, totally worth any kind of cost, especially if I'm a GM, I'm not paying, I'm just showing up and all my players have to pay. Obviously, with that, you kind of get like the room cost, the venue, and our RPG club supplied some resources to the players, so we had extra player handbooks and stuff that we could kind of throw out to new players, obviously to borrow for the session, not to keep. I think also with that, we were able to do stuff like special events, like we had a Christmas event that was paid for by the money, and we could do like a first session free. I don't know what the cost for the RPG clubs around you is, so you should really look into that and see if it makes sense to go, but if you price usually them up, they're really good value for money, because if you go to see a film, that's like £8 for an hour and a half potentially, whereas an RPG club, ours was £2.50 for 3 hours of entertainment. You got a whole room, well, you all had to share a room, but we'll come into that later. So, number 5, negatives, is unfortunately, it's going to cost you some money. So, the number 5 positive, and this is going to be a controversial one, is there's definitive end time. So I think one of the best parts of ending D&D, one of the best parts of D&D and RPGs is ending the session. And I know, controversial opinion, but you can't really appreciate the session until after it's over. Having that definite ending not only allows you to walk away from the table as a GM and know that everyone knows that you kind of had to end there, but it also allows you to plan as a GM a cool ending. You have an allotted space of time, you know how long that is, and after a couple of weeks you'll kind of figure out how much content you need to write. That definite ending, that you have to play within this sort of time period, really allows you to have succinct, nice sessions. Like, you know how long a session's going to be, you know how much gameplay you can get in there. You can have an ending, like an episode ending. I like to describe my RPGs like endings, so I usually will end on like the classic NCIS black and white freeze frame for everyone if we're like in the middle of something, or I'll throw a twist in at the end. That ending, like, having that be a specified place and time is so wonderful, especially because after you've been playing for a while, you will have the 8-hour session that didn't really have an ending. I think we've all run in these marathon sessions that were really cool for that day, but if you had to run them every week, I couldn't do it. Having that definite ending is a thing that I really kind of miss, because now my home games kind of run off into the night, and I'm kind of like, I should probably just set like a timer on Alexa or something, but you know, it is what it is. I really like the definite ending. Some people are like, no, I want to play even longer, then, you know, I guess that's a negative, but for me it's a positive. So, number 4 negative is volume, and the volume you can be, and the volume everyone else can be. So, RPGs obviously get quite animated. There's a lot of dramatic moments and role playing where you kind of need to like do like a voice with bravado. You need to say things like very definitely, and you kind of can't do that at a club. You have to keep it on the down low, which I don't have to do in my house, or my flat, should I say. And that can kind of, it becomes very apparent when someone's breaking that norm, and everyone kind of feels like, dude, come on, we all have to share this space. With you not being very loud, you also have to kind of still be kind of loud, because especially in our venue, it was quite open. you could hear the other GMs. So you can definitely hear the other GMs and the other players. So if there's a player in your game that's kind of half paying attention, they're also having to like cut through all of the other sound in the venue, which is obviously quite annoying, but I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that unless you had like separate rooms. And if you have separate rooms, obviously that's going to be like a rent thing, so the price of your club's going to go up. Not having played in a game store, I don't know how bad it gets, but I imagine like in a retail environment, that's not great, but I guess if your game store's fairly quiet, that's why they're renting it out. The volume never became that much of an issue for me. It's more just like a thing you had to be aware of. And obviously you can't do stuff like play music, but that will also tie into another negative I have. Number 4, you get a space to play in. A lot of people live in small flats. I live in a flat, and I totally get that not a lot of people have enough space to set up a table to have 6, 7, or 8 of your friends round. Hopefully 4. But yeah, having the definite space, having a table that you can go sit at, enough chairs, and all the chairs are fairly similar, so no one's sitting on the crappy guest chair that, you know, I have to have, is really nice. You get a definitive space, you can set up, you're not going to get hassled. It's really great to just have a space to play in that is a space, like just a space to play in for you. Obviously, if you're attending a club that's at like a shop, maybe you won't have that kind of luxury, you'll be in the middle of the shop, but a definite space to play in is honestly like a godsend, especially if you're not living on your own. Like, bringing all your dorky friends around your parents' house or your partner's house when they're not really into it, and then them having to listen to you talk in a dumb gnome voice for half the night really isn't something you kind of want to do. So having that definite play space, the space where, you know, everyone in that building knows what you're kind of doing and everyone's kind of accepted that your dumb gnome voice is coming out and everyone's hyped for it is really good. Just having the space is my number 4. So number 3 negative is you're probably going to be playing 5e. I've put this at number 3 because it's kind of like a lot of people like to play 5e and that's all they play, and for them, then yeah, sure, this isn't a negative, this is just, yeah, I'm going to an RPG club, I'm obviously going to play 5e. But for a guy with a bunch of RPGs on his shelf, it's kind of sad. Like, if you want to be a player, you're probably going to be playing 5e. Like, no one's really running anything that crazy at the club we went to. I was kind of known to be the guy who ran bizarre things like Kids on Bikes, and like the Game of Thrones RPG. Like, everyone's basically playing 5e, and everyone's kind of playing 5e in the Forgotten Realms. So I mean, you don't even get like the interesting stuff that you might have with like Dark Zone or something. So it's just something you have to be aware of. Like, it is the most popular RPG, and as a lot of people said, rising tide lifts all ships. It's helping out the whole hobby and the whole industry, so I hold no grudges against it. It's just, that's not my preference for the RPG I want to play. So if you're going to a club and it's also not your preference, you might have to step into a GM role. And if you're the kind of person who's a forever GM and wants to play, you're probably going to have to play 5e. Number 3, best thing about a RPG club is you don't have to be the forever GM. Oh my gosh. So I kind of end up being the forever GM because I'm the kind of guy who buys the systems and reads them. But at the RPG club, I could flit in and out of being a GM and being a player, and that was kind of accepted. And I know a lot of GMs could do that as well. So we had about 4 or 5 GMs, but enough people to run like 3 or 4 games. So as a GM, you could always like dot out and do different things. I know this isn't kind of a problem for some people because they like being the forever GM, and more power to you. Like, I wish I could do that, but I really enjoy playing, and you know, I buy these games not just for me to create stories. I want to be able to play them. So not being the forever GM and getting to play because a lot of people are there to play and there's enough GMs is a godsend. That's why it's my number 3. So my number 2 big gripe with RPG clubs is you can't control the play space. You're going to have a room and the lighting's going to be set and the music is going to be non-existent. You can't play music because of the whole volume thing. Like, bringing things is also quite difficult. Like, you are going to have to bring a lot of stuff to the game, so you can't like pack like awesome delicate props and stuff. What I like to do in my game is music and lighting, and you definitely can't do that at a club. You can't like, RGB up the club with the kind of lighting you want. So totally get that, you know, that's not a possibility. Like, they couldn't do that. Well, they couldn't do that at my club, but maybe if it's a dedicated space, then, you know, this is also an issue. But the kind of traditional RPG club that's either in like a library or, I guess, a school, if you go to a school that has that, or like a university one in like a lecture hall, you're not going to be able to control the lighting. You're not going to be able to control the environment. So you're kind of just gonna have to, I guess it's like, you're gonna have to be more descriptive and kind of make sure people are staying in the mood a bit more. That's why I kind of like to employ lighting and sound and stuff. But I mean, you can't do that at a club, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's going to improve your GMing. Number 2, so it's consistency. We're all adults, we all have busy schedules, and running a home game, kind of everyone's schedules kind of take precedence, and as a GM, you're going to be doing a lot of your own sort of rescheduling and kind of enforcing people coming around. I don't want to put it like that, but sometimes it can end up like that. And everyone obviously actually does want to play. It's just like life, you know, always gets in the way. However, if you go to an RPG club, you're going to get that consistency because everyone knows Sunday, it's there, it's now, like, this is our day to play, we only have the room for this time. If you can't make it, let the GM know, but the game's still going ahead and everyone else is kind of still going to show up. And that really is great, like having the consistency, showing up and knowing that there's always going to be people there because everyone's kind of committed to this one time and we only have the room for this time. I've found that players definitely show up more to a club than... players definitely show up more consistently to a club than they would to a home game because, like, we can't all reorganize our schedules at a club because we've already got the room. And that's why it's number 2. And number 1 worst thing about going to an RPG club is it 1,000% increases your chances of meeting that guy. We've all read the forum posts, the Reddit posts, we've seen the YouTube videos that are just the Reddit posts about that guy. Yeah, that guy exists, and that guy definitely exists in your town. I kind of was always skeptical reading those posts before I started going to a club about that guy, but yeah, no, he exists, and he's probably GMing there as well, so it's like kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, the people you usually meet there, as you will find out, are great, but it will increase your likelihood of finding that guy who either ruins the game for everyone, or ruins the club, or just starts fights, or like the incessant rules lawyer. That guy is probably going to show up because he can't get a home game together because he's that guy. So he's going to show up, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Now, we only had one that guy, and thankfully he left because nobody really wanted him there because he continued to be that guy after people spoke to him about being that guy. So your mileage may vary. You might not meet him. If you go to a well-established club, they might have already, you know, kicked out that guy, but you have to be wary of that guy. So now on to the number 1 positive. And number 1, and this is a big one, the people. You will meet so many people who are into the same nerdy, dumb gnome voice that you always do. Just the people at DDots especially were all, like, really cool. We all had really varied interests. Like, it was just such a smorgasbord of different types of people that you kind of wouldn't expect to be into the hobby from first glance. And we had people who had just started, from people who've been playing since, like, first edition. I got to meet, obviously, Sean and Addison from the GM's panel. That's going to be a link in the old... I think they call them end plates now. It's going to be a link in the end plate. And he showed me, like, some really cool RPGs. It has really helped me on my kind of GM journey, and that's why I've been doing the GM's panel. But you also meet, like, just really cool people that you would have never met otherwise, because it's like, when you become an adult, you either meet people drinking, you meet people at work, or you hang out with your old college buddies. Like, unless you go to a club, you don't really meet that many new people. But if you go to one of these clubs, you're going to be meeting all these people who have, like, loads of different jobs, from, like, teachers to software developers. You're going to meet a massive group of people, and our community especially was really tight knit. We'd all at the end of games have these kind of like war stories where we'd stand outside and people would wait for lifts or people would just stay to talk, and we'd just tell each other like how excited we were about the game and all the cool moments. And the people really make an RPG club. That's why it's my number one. I definitely recommend going, like, even if it's not your style of play, like, just try it for a few weeks. Like, the people really suck you in, and I would probably still be going to a club now as well as doing a home game, because the people there are just great, and you get to meet so many different people. Right, so that's my thoughts and opinions, and I guess a glowing recommendation for clubs. When I started filming this, that kind of wasn't in my headspace. It was kind of being like this video is going to be like a balanced thing. But no, I think like having a home game is super important, and you can do like a lot more with it. But I think the people at a club and the kind of, I think really the people make our hobby, because if you have a bunch of players that you don't like, or if you have a GM you don't like, or you know, whatever, like, you're not going to enjoy the hobby, and you can meet a lot of people who are into the same thing, and everyone's pretty much on the same interest level, and I think that's why people had to be my number one. So I definitely recommend going to one. If you're in the Northampton, Burton Latimer area, Dungeons, Dragons and other things, I like wholeheartedly recommend. They're really cool people. I'll leave a link to their Facebook group so you can go find them. But thank you for watching. I will have a review at some point of the freshly arrived Spinlands Bitter Reach. I'm not all the way through it yet. I've finished the Crypt of the Mellified Mage, which is kind of like a bunch of dungeons. But I'm thinking either the Bitter Reach is going to be the next video if I get through it, because I've already been running parts of it in my home game. So I think that's either going to be the next video, or I'll do something else from the shelf. I kind of want to do, like, at least while I've got things to review, I kind of want to do like a review and then like an opinion piece like this. Next week will be another GM panel with Sean Connors and Addison. Those are really long, but like I think there's some really good nuggets of GMing. Sean's been GMing for years and years and years, and he ran the most insane game of Knights Black Agents, which you should pick that up. If I do a stream game, it's definitely going to be that bad boy. He did the most insane game of Knights Black Agents that, like, it's one of my fondest memories of playing RPGs. So go check that out. Like, subscribe is the thing that I guess I have to say. So like and subscribe and comment, and then I think there's a bell. They've probably added another thing now, like a double bell, but you know, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you next week for the GM panel here on the Flickering Torch.